Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2019 Public Sector Summit. My name is Valeria Phillips, and I'm one of your room hosts. And I have a few important announcements to make. The emergency exits are located to the right and in front of the room. Bathrooms are located to the left. If you have not done yet so, please download our application through the App Store, the AWS Americas Events, and please provide feedback on the session through that app. Finally, all the sessions that you attend today will be recorded and made available to you after the event. And now, please welcome to the stage our moderator, Grant Irons, and our panelists. They're already here. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. And actually, can you give the mic there to Dalika? There we go, good. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Future of Education, Skills, Curriculum, and Student Inspiration. We have 6 current and recent graduates on current students and recent graduates on the stage with us, and they are studying or studied to prepare themselves for cloud-related jobs. We're hoping to gain some knowledge and insight on what they studied, what they're studying, and how they are preparing themselves for a career in cloud. So my name is Grant Irons. I'm the faculty ambassador for AWS Educate. I have been in educational technology and cloud for over 10 years, and I'm excited to be on the stage with you guys. So let's introduce the panelists. So first is Colin Arnett, and raise your hand, yeah, go. Colin, he's a student at Northern Virginia Community College, also known as NOVA. He's studying computer science. He's interested in learning about industry best practices in subjects like AI, ML, cloud, and software engineering. In his spare time, he likes to program small Linux projects, and he hopes to start working on a fully fledged open source project in the near future. Next is Dalika Gapasetti. Did I say it right? Yes, okay, good. And she's currently a senior at George Mason University, and she's pursuing her Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. She has a strong passion for web development and cloud computing, and is a certified AWS Solutions Architect. Dalika is founder and president of the Association of Engineers, which is a student organization that provides helpful and comfortable learning communities among engineers at GMU. And she's a member of Women in Tech, where she mentors and empowers middle and high school girls in technology. This summer, she's going to be interning at USA Today as a software development engineer. So glad you're here. Next is Shadman Hussain. Shadman, he is an information technology major and business minor, also at George Mason. He's the co-founder of Blockchain Mason, which is a student-run organization with the goal of bridging the gap between blockchain and academia. The organization focuses on educating students, industry leaders, and decision makers about blockchain use cases to bring radical efficiency and transparency to businesses, enterprises, and governments. Glad you're here. Jaron Luers. Jaron studied, past tense, computer technology with a concentration in computer and network security. And while at Bowie State, where he studied, he worked as a member of the Forensic Technology Initiative Cyber Squad. And they participated in multiple hackathons, including one which they won. Jaron graduated from Bowie State in May and is currently pursuing a career with the federal government, which is a common theme around the city. Sebastian Valenzuela. He's originally from Santiago, Chile, but grew up in Northern Virginia. Ready? He has 4 college degrees, including a bachelor's in cybersecurity from George Mason and an associate's in cybersecurity from NOVA. He's currently working on his 5th degree, this time an associate in cloud computing from NOVA. Sebastian has Security Plus and AWS Cloud Practitioner certifications and takes cloud security classes on the weekends, so he likes school. And then last is Nathan Wallace, and Nathan is a full-stack web developer with experience in higher ed tech, e-commerce, and government sectors. Nathan received his Master's of Professional Studies in Technology Management from Georgetown University's School of Continuing Studies, where he learned about the strategic benefits of cloud computing and how the AWS platform can help companies better plan their IT operations and simplify their software development workflow using out-of-the-box services. So we have a lot of experience up on the stage here among these students and recent graduates. So I'm glad to have you all up here and to learn a little bit from you guys. So first, a couple of questions for the entire group. So feel free to answer, and you guys are going to have to share the mic. First of all, what interests you about cloud computing?
I can start.
That'd be great.
So for me personally, cloud computing, how I got introduced to it is that the generation we live in is, we want to do everything from home, or at least remotely. And literally our life is on our phones, our mobile phones, or our laptops. And I learned that with cloud computing, you don't even need an infrastructure. You have a already made infrastructure, and all you need to do is like simply provision some resources, and there you have it. You run your business wherever you are around the world. Just that one simple statement really empowered me and felt like, okay, so if I just learn about cloud, then any time in my life, I can literally start my own business no matter where I am around the world. So I think that's one of the reasons why, is because I have that entrepreneurial spirit inside me, and I love learning about new technologies, and cloud being the number one, especially AWS being number one. I was very fascinated into the solutions architect, and that's how I got into cloud technology.
Awesome, thanks. Sebastian, do you have an answer to that too?
Yeah, so I'm coming from a background in cybersecurity, and overall security is focused on detection and prevention. And I find that services like the ones in AWS are improving the ability to analyze big data at a fast rate, nearly in real time, and respond nearly in real time through automated systems like serverless computing. So it's really affecting my industry.
Awesome, thank you. Let me ask another question, so we keep it moving. How do you make yourselves competitive for a cloud career? Which, by the way, is the most searched keyword on LinkedIn. So how do you prepare yourself? Yeah.
Well, I think cloud computing is, depending on which organization you're a part of, it really requires leadership, and it's an opportunity for young people to really transform their own organization and really introduce new best practices and really scale their operations in a way that the traditional infrastructure didn't really allow. So I think it's an area where young people really can take a leadership role, and I think that's what excites me most about cloud computing, is that it's really an opportunity for the new generation to kind of lend their hand and teach everyone, whether it's managing up or sharing with their peers.
Awesome, thanks. Any other thoughts on how to make yourself competitive for a cloud career?
Yeah, so I think now more than ever, I think young people have an incredible access to like tons of information, like all over the world, and even some places where you don't expect a lot of information to be for like cloud computing and things like that, like Reddit or Discord. I know that a lot of people my age use those services, and while you think they're like for gaming or like just social media, there's a lot of really niche communities that are building all these really cool like best practice tools and some of the newest libraries. And so hanging out in those areas, even though you don't think they're very professional spaces, is a really good way to learn all the best practices.
Awesome, good thought. Another question, where do you see cloud impacting the workforce outside of technology roles? Because we usually think of technology roles as, in the workforce, having a role in technology, working with cloud. What about non-technology roles?
So I think services in the cloud are helping teams communicate even when they're not in the same place. So a lot more remote jobs have come about as a result of cloud services.
Okay, awesome. And I'm hearing a theme of remote, so go ahead, Dalika.
And I think another big impact cloud has played is in healthcare. The amount of data that's in healthcare, it's very large. And the fact that with cloud, everything is serverless and it's up in the cloud, literally, and there's no way for you to, there's no need for you to say, okay, I only want 1 terabyte of data. there's elasticity, it'll expand to how much ever you want. So in that case, you can simply provision up to your, what you think, and it'll automatically scale up. And I think healthcare, it's very important, especially in remote areas where there's not many resources. And with cloud, people are able to transfer that data across the world and get that data to people who actually have that power to, come up with a solution for them. So I think one example that I recently read in an article is, in some parts of the world, there are not many, healthcare centers. And what they do is they're very local centers, and even they're implementing cloud, and in a very small, at a very small scale. And they're storing their data there, and someone else in the other side of the world is able to access that data and provide some sort of solution to the problem. So I think healthcare is definitely big, and it's still continuing to grow. So definitely.
Thanks. And Shadman, did you have an answer?
So I also wanted to add that it's very important for different perspectives that to come into the tech field, just because they bring a broader perspective. So I have a friend who's studying international relations, which is nowhere near tech. But me talking to her, she brings other perspectives that somebody that's a technologist wouldn't even think about. Because all we want to do is technical advancements. But what is the effect of that technology, whether it's be the access to or the lack of access? So that has effects on different parts of the world, and I think that's also very important to look at.
Yeah.
Good point. Do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I think every company needs to be a technology company, regardless of what industry you're in. And I actually work in marketing and communications, but I found that cloud technology has really democratized IT operations and allowed other departments to really take advantage of technology in new ways, where traditionally the IT department was the owner and really had their almost like a closed box approach to it. And I think cloud really has opened that up in a big way and allowed for a lot of experimentation to take place. And not to mention all the software as a service products that have been built on cloud. So I think that it's really exciting to be a part of cloud at this point because it's only going to grow.
Yeah. Love the fact that cloud is not just in IT, and you pointed that out. And a couple of years ago, those of you who are in the room who have been in cloud for a while remember the concept of shadow IT. And cloud was shadow IT, and now it's not in the shadow anymore. Now it's not casting a shadow.
I think I was guilty of shadow
Yes.
IT a few years ago,
we
but
all
now
have.
they're reining me in with the cloud.
I think and marketing and communications was one of the worst offenders. So, okay. Did anybody else want to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add up what you said. I think it's a really good point that how he said that every company is an IT company. I think indirectly most even like non-technical companies become technical companies because there's some sort of technology involved. And a lot of people who use cloud, they think that it's so technical, I don't want to touch it. But if you think about it, you using Dropbox or even Google Drive is like a form of cloud. And it's just as easy, to learn or to even use. So I think the fact that if that's a reason for you to stay away, that it's so technical, I think it shouldn't be, because you're literally using it in your everyday life without knowing.
Good point. And I'm going to ask a question towards the end that I think you'll have a good answer for. But let's move on to some individual questions. So thanks for general. Now I want to dig into everyone's own experience, and I want to start with Colin. So understand that you have a specific interest in cybersecurity, data science, sorry. What are some of the data science use cases that are interesting to you?
So I read a lot of Isaac Asimov when I was a kid. And I mean, obviously that comes with like very general AI stuff. So I'm really interested in like natural language processing and anything along those lines, because if you can get a robot to like understand text, it gets you even closer to being able to have that general AI like dream that we all have. So anytime that I can get closer to like natural language processing, or just kind of like nudge the world a little bit closer towards that like general AI, that's where I want to help.
Awesome. And as a student, how do you do that?
So as a student, I've been looking into like lots of different like cool libraries and different ways of doing that. So you've got things like Markov chains and different ways of implementing that. But what we've got now is we've got things like Alexa, which is like kind of the beta stage of that, where it's getting even better and better since it's got such a wide network to train on. And I think if I can help with that by like working on different open source projects and making that available to everyone, I think that that's extremely helpful.
Awesome, thanks. Out of curiosity, who has an Alexa? Okay, so it's catching on.
Yeah.
That's good.
Even more data to train on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's Alexa is a great use case of, to your point, AI and how it's in the hands of everyone. Whether it's at home or, Dalika, like you were saying, people are using cloud and they don't even realize it. Alexa is a good use case. Thanks. So Dalika, you have your solutions architect certification.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was your impetus for getting that certification? Because it's not something you just do. And what did you do to prepare for it?
The main reason for me to decide to even go for a certification is for my own personal challenge. Before today, cloud was not taught at George Mason. And like President Cabrera announced in the keynote, now today we have Bachelor's of Science in Cloud Computing. And I found that as a challenge, and the main reason I went into it is because, like I told you earlier, I really want to start my own business someday in the future. And I don't want to have to, find that space, that infrastructure to build and find those resources. And I think it's just too many upfront costs. And like, with cloud, there's all that upfront cost is gone. It's just the minimum amount that you pay, and then you pay as you go. And so I really like that idea, and I thought, why not start now? And as I'm young, I can learn more, and I can actually adapt to the different, technologies and ideas more. And starting at a young age will definitely allow my brain to, get used to that complex things, and I think I can definitely, make it more firm as I grow older. So that was one of the main reasons. It was more for personal growth and also for my long-term goal. And how I did it is I used many resources, like Google. First, before I even started studying, I just did a lot of Googling and trying to find what is the first step I need to do. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of blogs, and then I took a Cloud Guru course.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that, I read a lot of the documentations on AWS that are available for free. I personally would say those are the best. I think when I gave my exam, a lot of the questions were in line with the documentation. And I think the documentation not only will help for the exam, but even for the long-term knowledge, because they give a lot of examples, step-by-step labs. So I think that's very good. And later, after all this, it was a 5-month journey. And in the end, I wrote a blog. I wrote a few blogs about it, just so that other from my fellow classmates or whoever is interested can just get into that head start without having to go through all the phases I went through.
It's a lot of work, so congratulations for getting it.
Thank you.
Good for you. While you have the mic, before we pass it, I want to ask you one more question about being a mentor. So you mentor middle school and high school girls as a part of Women in Tech. Excuse me. What do you tell your mentees about the cloud?
I tell them to get a head start on it because, like I said, when you're young, your brain is fresh. You're able to, grasp that as much knowledge as you can. So this is the right age to learn as many new things as possible, because once you get older, you can learn things much quicker because you're used to that challenges. You're used to, learning those complex algorithms or whatever it may be. So that's literally what I tell them, as whatever opportunities or technical, non-technical opportunities you get, grab it and learn. Because it's great to have fun, but you can also have fun with, whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
So
awesome. Thank you. Thanks for doing that too. That's really important for young women. Shadman, you're next. So you created blockchain at Mason. You usually think about blockchain in conjunction with cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. How is blockchain applied in academia?
Sure. So blockchain, like you said, most people think about it as Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but that fundamental technology, the underlying technology, is what fascinated me for a long time. And I've been looking at use cases that doesn't involve cryptocurrencies. So if you know about Hyperledger, it was developed by the Linux Foundation and IBM. And it's one of the frameworks that actually AWS has templatized and kind of released it for developers to put out there. But there's no cryptocurrency associated with Hyperledger. And a lot of governments and enterprises are using Hyperledger to track food from farm to the moment it comes to your food table, so you can know that fish is actually cod or salmon. Some governments in Singapore are actually using blockchain to put credentials, degrees, certification on the blockchain. So traditionally, if you go to an employer, you have to request the degree from your school, and it's a kind kind of a long process to request it, get it from your school. Sometimes people can even tamper degrees. People come up with fake degrees and say that they achieved something. So how can you prove and verifiably prove that that is true? And so some of those use cases could be implemented in academia as well as government to add that transparency and take away control from centralized places and put that into code. And so we don't have to trust somebody, but we can own our data. And I feel like that is we're in an early stage of blockchain. People think about it, cryptocurrencies, but 5-10 years down the line, I think things will start changing. You'll get to the full potential of blockchain. And that's one of the reasons why I created blockchain at Mason. It's to kind of bridge that education gap. It's not just cryptocurrencies, but there's other use cases for this technology.
Awesome. So you guys don't just get together and mine Bitcoins?
No.
Good.
A lot of people come in for that, but
yeah. So any George Mason students, blockchain at Mason, great club. Thanks for telling us about that. Another question for you: how do you see cloud computing impacting the business world? Do you have a minor in business?
Yeah. So I'm very entrepreneurial at heart. I've had a couple of businesses, and all of them require IT infrastructure. So me knowing AWS having a marketplace, whether I want to have a WordPress site or a blog or a web application I want to get up and running, the marketplace, when I found that out, it just kind of was mind-blowing to me. It's like, wow, I can get up a WordPress site in 5 minutes, just a couple of clicks. And so when I realized that, that just kind of made me understand we're at a pivotal point where anybody with just a computer can put up a website, put up a business within 5 minutes, and that's what cloud has completely changed the game. And it's crazy the time to market. Whether you have idea, you can bring it up and running in 2 days. That is crazy.
If you sleep.
Yeah.
Even shorter if
you don't sleep, right?
Yeah. Awesome. So AWS Marketplace. Thanks for bringing that up. Really good resource for our customers. Jaron, you studied computer technology with a concentration in computer and network security. Something we've heard a great deal about in the news lately. What advice do you have for students choosing a major in cybersecurity to help them get a job with the federal government?
I think one of the main things you can do is network. Events like this, there are plenty of security events that you can go to, especially in this area. You get to meet all kinds of people. Also, we have certifications. Some schools offer programs where you can get free certifications. Take advantage of those things. Communicating with your teachers, because your teachers also have connections with companies and businesses, and they can, you can get in that way.
Yeah.
As well, I think doing projects on your own, that just helps you to hone in on your own personal skills. And I think the more projects you do, the more fun you'll start to have within your field, the more you'll have more ideas about different things that you want to do. You can put that on your LinkedIn. It makes you look more marketable. But I think that's overall.
Okay. Any particular projects you did that you remember fondly?
This isn't really security, but I did one project. I made a grade book website for teachers.
Oh, cool.
So it was, this is my introduction to web development. So it was challenging for me, but for, a web developer, make that in 5 minutes with WordPress. But and also, don't limit yourself to cybersecurity, because security, all aspects of technology need some form of security. IoT devices, that's Alexa. So tinker around with Alexa. I programmed some Alexa. It was for dealerships. So you could talk to Alexa and get a customized vehicle based off of the call and response that you do with her. So
That's awesome.
Just exploring and not limiting yourself.
Good. Another theme we're hearing. So we've heard a theme of working remote and a theme of exploring and doing projects on your own. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. Nathan, so you're out in the workforce. You use AWS in your day-to-day role. How do you see cloud changing IT operations and the software development workflow?
Well, working at a few different universities, I found that there's various levels of maturity within each organization, and I found that cloud really almost lays out a framework for you to follow, and it just accelerates the development operations that we're doing. We're able to, again, experiment with new products and services, and it allows people to come up with new ideas and really introduce new ways of doing things. But really, I think products and services like AWS really provide that framework and that best practice, whether it's code deploy, code pipeline, to really accelerate your ability to actually go from dev, test to production, and in a way that really is going to be pre-tested and a lot less opportunities for it to fail in production. So I think products like AWS and other platforms built on cloud really enable more people to participate in that process. So.
Good stuff. Also, while I have you, and this is a question that I didn't prep you for, but transitioning from university life to the workforce, and do you have any advice for students out in the audience that are trying to get a job or recently gotten a job in technology, what they need to be aware of, what they need to look for as they're transitioning?
Yes, I'd say as a technology professional, it doesn't always have to be a technical solution. I think a lot of employers are looking for a well-rounded individual with multiple skills, the ability to communicate effectively. I think that's extremely important for technology professionals to understand. And as well as this sort of theme of experimentation. I think there's some people, I think the most successful people are those who are willing to take a risk, who are willing to fail. And I think failure can be the best way to learn in some cases. And I think that can set you apart. And I think I'm always looking for what to experiment with next, what opportunities I can pursue. And I just encourage students to really get hands-on with the technology. I know that I think there's another theme that there's an entrepreneurial spirit on the stage here today. So I also have a small business where I host and manage a series of websites for small businesses using AWS. And I think part of that is just a process of getting your hands dirty and not being afraid to try new things and pursue those opportunities.
Awesome, thank you very much. So Sebastian, I know you have an experienced cybersecurity expert from FireEye as your mentor. You have 4 degrees and you're working on the 5th, yet you still have a mentor, which is great. Can you tell us about the value of having a mentor and how that's helped you with your career progression?
Certainly. So I have been in school for a long time. I have my forte right now is in cybersecurity, and I just recently transitioned to a degree at Nova in cloud computing. And I know how being a student goes. I know how you take tests and get good grades, and how you can get the most out of a teacher, how you can really engage and walk away with a degree and know some things about some things. But I think having a mentor is another deeper level of education. For all those that are students and really in any field, I highly recommend you find somebody that you can connect with that has a lot of experience that can sort of show you the ropes. So I have fostered a relationship with a mentor, like you said, at FireEye for a number of years. Since the beginning of this year, every weekend we've been meeting for 2 hours to talk cloud security in AWS. And he's a solutions architect, so he's able to show me a lot of real-time, or real solutions that he's come up with. He says, well, this use case that we're studying, here's something that I did to come up with a solution. And it's implemented worldwide, and I just had to spend 3 weeks writing it, and now we don't touch it unless it needs maintenance. So I never would have learned about those kind of solutions, I think, per se, in the classroom. Some things that are being used for real problems that we're experiencing now in the cybersecurity community. It's also helped change my perception of the role of an IT professional in the security field. When I passed my Security Plus certification, also earlier this year, I thought I had sort of a lay of the land of the IT roles in security. And then once I started studying AWS, I saw the requirements of those roles change. So I never would have found this kind of stuff out without a mentor. Not to mention, as one of my colleagues out here has said, it's good for networking, and you should always be involved in some kind of project. At the moment, my mentor and I are trying to find AWS solutions for just a simple facial recognition sort of application to grant access to my local servers at home. And that's just a start, but even though the main tool is the AWS service recognition, yes. We'll be using S3, we'll be using EC2, we'll be using a little bit of everything. So one little project goes a long way in teaching you how to get your hands dirty with AWS.
Awesome, thank you. And how did you find your mentor?
Well, I also have a bachelor's and a master's degree in music composition and technology. For a while I was a music teacher, and I was sort of networking, and one of my violin students, that was her father.
That's
so
cool.
That's how I met him. Yeah.
Good stuff. And thanks for sharing that. And it's evidence that finding a mentor is not necessarily signing up for the mentor program at school or at work. It's through networking.
That's right.
And you also highlighted something else that I wanted to highlight to the audience, is that you have a music background, and Nathan, you have a
Arts background.
Arts background, yes. Which is evidence that the cloud, you don't have to start in technology. Like, you can get to the cloud or a career in cloud in many different ways. So thanks for sharing that. I have one more question for the whole group, and then we're gonna let you guys ask questions of the group. So what are some of the misconceptions of cloud computing, and how do we, as students and professionals, dispel those myths? Yes.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was first intimidated about with cloud is like, well, I'm a poor student, I have like no money, it's gonna cost me a lot to run anything for like 10 seconds. And I look at it, it's like, oh no, it's like 3 cents for the next like 2 hours. Oh, that's fine, I can just play with that and then terminate the instance, and that's it. So it's really not expensive at all, and as long as you have anything like, even a Chromebook, like you can just use everything in your browser or even just SSH in. And one of the things I wanted to add to your question earlier about non-tech people is that like, if you're starting a business and like you're in this area, you can just set up thin clients that are like Raspberry Pis that connect to AWS, and that's your starting cost. You need a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse, and a Raspberry Pi, and that's it.
Low barrier to entry.
Exactly.
Awesome.
I think one of the things that anybody that's involved in cloud computing should understand from a security perspective is a lot of the times we hear about how robust the cloud is, how secure it can be, but I think the AWS training does a very good job of designating or drawing a line down the middle with the shared responsibility model, saying that AWS provides security of the cloud, but not in the cloud. And, it sounds simple, it sounds obvious to keep in mind, but big companies like Tesla last year was, I think, hacked for cryptocurrency or something like that, because they kept one of their instances open. So we always have to remember that even though data centers in AWS are secure, we need to maintain some patching and continuous monitoring of our systems.
Awesome, thanks. So with that, I want to give you all the opportunity to ask questions. I don't know if we have an extra mic in the crowd, so if you want to just stand up and ask your question, then I can repeat it on mic. Yes?
So, thank you for the presentation. It's super interesting. And I promise you this is not asked as a gotcha question. But what do you see, particularly for those of you who didn't come from an arts or music background, what do you see as the role of the humanities in your education as technical professionals?
Great question. question. So the question was, what do you see as say it again, the role of the humanities in your technical education? So obviously, you guys, it was a big part of yours, but those are non-technical.
I think that the role of humanities really lets me be on the same playing field as far as everybody else goes in like conversation, basically. A lot of weekends I like to just hide away and like work on a project that I'm working on, and sometimes it's like, well, I don't really get the chance to learn everything that everybody else is like currently learned. So the humanities helps me like talk about similar things to other people and really enhances my networking skills.
Good point. Jalika?
I think most of the technology that's invented today is because of us. I mean, we saw a problem in something and then we came up with that solution by going beyond and out of our box. So I think humanity definitely plays a big role in this because whatever we do, it's for us. So I think definitely voicing out problems really help other people because many people have the ideas and the resources, but they don't have that push as to like, okay, this is actually a problem. And I think when we actually state the problem, we can actually come up with a solution, definitely, because with the vast technology and the resources we have today, we can almost do anything, including, like, for example, 3D printing. Like, who knew that would actually be a thing? So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Any other thoughts on humanities as a part of your education? Do you have it? I know you have something.
Yeah, I would just say that I think it's really important for technology professionals to think about ethics in everything that they do because technology is changing the world so rapidly, and if you don't think about it ethically, you can cause harm, and I think just understanding the impact you might have and thinking through that is critical for all technology professionals.
Good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I wanted to add on.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that. So, yeah, to back up his point, it's very important. So you see people like Mark Zuckerberg at the top of one of the biggest social media networks selling our data. At the end of the day, he dropped out. I'm not saying he should have had more humanities ethics classes, but these things we should keep in mind for what we're building. At the same time, technology could be used for good or evil at the same time, and we have the capacity to do both. Every human being, we do have that. So it's very important to have that innately within us to use technology for good, and humanities and having that ethical mindset helps.
Awesome. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, in the back.
You talked about blockchain disrupting the registrar's office, essentially, people owning their own credentials and things like that. Where else do you see higher education being disrupted in a similar way by newer technologies?
Great question. So I'm going to repeat it just for the video. So earlier it was mentioned that blockchain is disrupting the registrar's office. And where else do you see blockchain disrupting higher education?
Yeah, so there's couple of blockchain projects in education, and it's all about incentivizing students. How do you incentivize students to complete courses? How do you incentivize students to go to class? So, every university has some sort of money associated with that university. Like, for example, at Mason, we have Mason Money, right? So that money is a digital form of money that we know, and it could be used to purchase things. So a blockchain could be used to digitize that money in different campuses, and for parents can literally send it like much easily in terms of tracking and spending with lower fees and higher transparency. So, and you can incentivize students with that. So with every action they do, you can sort of kind of track, hey, they completed this lesson, they completed, they turned this project in, and you can kind of incentivize students through that digital token or that digital money for every university to, kind of promote and even retain the students even further. And we don't have that sort of incentivization model here in America, but several other countries kind of have, Europe sometimes pays students to go to school or even learn. So, I think there are a couple of use cases in academia aside from just credentials.
But most important is for parents to be able to send students money.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
That's huge.
I had one more thing to add on to that.
Yeah.
You don't even usually need to pay students. I mean, there's lots of different ways of like gamifying that, and an immutable ledger really helps track all that. So like, I know on AWS Educate, you get little badges for completing things, and like, I know that at home I've got like I've got 2 stickers that I really want to put on my lunchbox, and one of them is like AWS developer and then AWS cloud practitioner. And it's like, oh, I really want to be able to put those on my lunchbox, so I have to go do those things first to do that. And so
stickers are great incentives.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good point. Yeah, Dalika.
I mean, speaking of AWS, I mean, the certifications are itself a big deal. Like, you know, if you get the solutions architect or developer, your salary goes up by what, like 20K? So, I mean, isn't that also an incentive?
Good point. Other questions? Yes, in the back.
So I'm coming from public school education. Thinking back to when you just mentioned the AWS Educate, we just got access for a year to the Amazon Future Educator program, and really trying to think how we can catch the most students in building an interest and exposure to AWS Educate in a meaningful way. Thinking back to your education yourself, how would you suggest that we do that as well?
Yeah, so thinking, you're at K-12, yes? K-12 public schools? Yeah, so thinking back to your K-12 experience, what would have captured you earlier in the cloud journey? Yeah, Colin.
So I think one of the things in elementary school that everybody gets taught is like there's all these general names for jobs, right? So like you can work in data science or you can be a data scientist, but like how do you funnel that down into a practical example for kids of that age, right? They don't really care about, well, you'll make this much money as a data scientist. It's like what's interesting and cool. So AWS Educate has like real world examples of things that each path shows you. So you can go in and do projects also for AWS Educate. And those specific roles that they have designated on AWS Educate, I think will help kids really see more of what they want to do as like a practical thing rather than like a general example of a job title.
Awesome. And so what he's talking about are the career pathways that are available to students in higher ed, and then in K-12 we have pathways that are a little bit broader, but they also guide students in the direction of cloud careers. Any other thoughts on thinking back to when you were in elementary or junior high school?
Well, I have a passion for education. I think that the key to teaching technology to young people is project-based learning. And I think there's a lot of opportunities with gaming that can be integrated into curriculum that really make it fun for kids to learn how to code. And I know AWS has a range of products, including 3D graphics. So maybe extracurricular activities can be combined with some of these traditional curriculums and really from a project-based approach make it fun. And I think letting them actually create something, and similar to shop class when you can take it home with you and give it to your family, you can do that with technology too. You can create a website, you can take that home, you can take that outside of the classroom and really carry it with you.
It's the 2020 equivalent of a birdhouse. I like it. Good stuff. Any other thoughts? Okay, other questions? Yes.
Nathan mentioned that transitioning to the workforce, in addition to its technical skills, employers are looking for a well-rounded individual and they, value communication. So I wonder for the rest of you, what soft skills have you found valuable in your studies, in the side projects you're doing, or in looking for your next steps when you get a job?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question as well as I can remember. So what are some of the soft skills that you have found valuable in your current education or as you're searching for a job? Is that close? Okay.
I think when I was looking for an internship, in addition to my technical skills, what the employers found beneficial is my determination to learn new skills, as well as communication skills. And I think these two are very important, at least coming out of college, because school is definitely different from the real world. Like, it's been 2 weeks since I've joined my internship, and I'm learning extremely new things, technically and non-technically as well. And technically, it's completely different from what you learn in your degree. Like, you might learn Java, Python, but what you use in Java and Python in the real world is extremely different. And it's crazy because it literally opened my eyes, and I have to learn again. So, just because you're done with college really doesn't mean that you're done with learning. You're still learning, but in a different way. And I think definitely being a determined student will come off as a positive vibe, because your willingness to learn and continue to learn will definitely attract the employer, because companies today don't just stop with one technology; they keep growing. At least Gannett is a very they use cutting edge technologies, and today they might be using JavaScript, tomorrow they might be using completely something different. So determination is definitely the key, and communication, because you're gonna have to talk to people at different levels. So it's not just your peers, but respect, professionalism, those definitely do matter.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on soft skills? Yeah, Sharon.
For me, actually acting, I've participated in some plays on campus, and that really helped with a lot of my communication skills, because you have to interact with your fellow actors, and you start to get used to that team environment. And in technology, there's a lot of teamwork going on. Also mentoring, because when you're mentoring younger individuals who may not have as much experience with certain concepts as you need to make things as simple as possible, so that they can start to build the foundation. And I think when you're thinking, I think the best way to communicate about technology is to keep it as simple as possible, because there can be a lot of complex technical things that you're dealing with. But when you have the ability to translate that into something that everyone can understand, I think that also helps with your understanding of what's going on as well.
So thanks. We have 2 minutes. So is there a 2-minute question out there? Yes.
This question's mostly directed at Nathan. So there are 2 questions I have. So how did you end up in this field coming from an arts background? And what role did your arts background play in your professional pursuits?
So last question's for Nathan. One more time.
How did you end up in this field coming from an arts background?
How did you end up in this field coming from an arts background, and what role did your arts background play on getting you this job?
I think coding is a creative activity, so that's where I would start with that question. But also, I had an interest in 3D printing and digital fabrication as well, so that was my entry point into technology. So working with the community fab lab, I was able to expose myself to different types of technology, and actually started my web development career in the arts, supporting local nonprofits and artists. So it really was part of that creative process and part of just interacting with my community and just really growing as a technology professional in that way. So.
Awesome, thank you. So unfortunately we're out of time and folks are trying to come in, but I want to thank all the panelists. You are an impressive group of people, and I am excited to see what you are going to do in the future. So thanks for coming. Let's give them a hand.